Okay, so based on your spaghetti activity, the triangle inequality theorem basically says that the sum or the addition of the two smallest legs or two smallest sides has to be greater than the third side. So if I had a side length of 2 centimeters, another side length of 2 centimeters, and then a side length of 5 centimeters, the sum of the two smallest sides, so 2 plus 2 is 4, it has to be greater than the third side, 5. Well, 4 is not greater than 5, so this would not make a triangle. So a good example would be a side length of 2, a side length of 3, and a side length of 4, where the sum of the two smallest sides, 2 and 3, which is 5, is greater than 4. So this would make a triangle. So in example number 1, it says which of the following side lengths will form a triangle, why or why not. Support your answer mathematically. For these problems, don't just write, oh, B. You have to show the work that goes along with deciding whether or not the side lengths form a triangle. So you have to show that the sum of the two smallest sides is larger or is not larger than the third side. So they're not always going to give you the side lengths in order from smallest to largest. You have to actually look and see which two are the smallest. So 8 and 12 here. Is 8 plus 12 greater than the third side, which is also 12? Well, 8 plus 12 is 20. Is that greater than 12? So this one, I'm going to circle A. A is a set of side lengths that will form a triangle, and you're supporting your work mathematically is this part. Why or why not is because the third side is smaller. See, 12 is smaller than the sum of the two smallest sides. And that's why it forms a triangle. So you test B, C, and D. Pause the video and see if you think that B, C, and D form triangles. You pause the video and see what you come up with. Okay, so you should have gotten no, yes, and yes. If that's what you got and you wrote the following reasons down, the sum of the two small sides is not greater than the third. The sum of the two small sides is greater than the third. The sum of the two small sides is greater than the third. Then go ahead and move on to the next part. If not, I'll show you how we get these answers. Remember, you add the two smallest sides, 1 and 6 here. The sum of the two smallest sides has to be greater than the third side. Well, 1 plus 6 is 7, and 7 is not greater than 7. It's equal to 7. So no. Letter C, 1.5 and 1. Those are your two smallest sides. 1 plus 1.5 has to be greater than 2.2. 1 plus 1.5 is 2.5. That's greater than 2.2. And letter D, the two smallest are 18 and 25. That sum has to be greater than the third side. And 25 and 18 is 43. And 43 is greater than 30. Now, I did not show this work when I showed my answers because I knew I was going to show it to you guys later anyway, but you have to have this, this, and this to get credit for a correct answer in this scenario. Because it's way too easy for me to just write no, yes, no, or yes, yes, no. I could just guess and get that right on a 50-50 shot if I were to let you do it that way. Okay, so this is where you have a lot to remember. If you're given any two sides of the triangle, the length of the third side is going to be greater than the difference, that means subtracting, and less than the sum of the lengths of the two given sides. So I'll show you what we mean here. It says find the range for the measure of the third side of a triangle given the measures of the two sides. So this is what it's basically saying. It's saying these are two sides of a triangle. You have to tell me which side length is the third side going to fall between. So remember, the sum of the two smallest numbers has to be greater than the third side. So if these are the two smallest numbers, 8 and 4, then their sum has to be greater than the third side. So 8 and 4 is 12. That means the third side, I'll call it x. X has to be less than 12 in order for this to be a triangle. X has to be less than 12. Well, what if these aren't the two smallest numbers? What if 4 is the smallest side and the third side, x, is the other smallest side, and 8 is the largest side? Well, that means that the sum of the two smallest numbers, 4 and x, we don't know what x is, that's just the third side, has to be greater than the largest side. So I'm just solving an inequality here. I'm just going to subtract 4 from both sides. So in this case, x has to be greater than 4. So the third side, if these are the two smallest sides, the third side has to be less than 12, or it has to be greater than 4 if this is the small side and this is the large side. Alright, so the way that we write that is we call x the third side. X has to be greater than the difference of the two numbers, which was 4, and it has to be less than the sum of the two sides, which is 12. So our third side has to fall anywhere between 4 and 12. So it could be 5, it could be 6, it could be 7, it could be 8, it could be 9, it could be 10, and it could be 11. And if it's any of those three sides, or any of those following side lengths, it can form a triangle. Alright, let's do B. I'll do it with you guys, and then you could do C and D on your own. So for B, remember, the given two sides of a triangle, the length of the third side is greater than the difference. So we know the third side, x, has to be greater than the difference. And it has to be less than the sum of the two numbers. So every time you see this kind of problem, you're setting up the equation x is greater than the difference and less than the sum. So the difference would be 11 minus 5, and the sum would be 11 plus 5. So 11 minus 5 is 6, and that has to be less than x, our third side, which has to be less than 11 plus 5, which is 16. So our third side has to fall anywhere in between 16 and 6, where it has to be less than 16 and it has to be greater than 6. Alright, you try C and D on your own. Go ahead and pause the video and see if you get what I get. Okay, so for letter C, you should have gotten that the third side, x, is supposed to be greater than 11 and less than 19. And on the letter D, the third side, x, has to be greater than 10 and less than 32. So we take the difference, 15 minus 4, and that third side has to be greater than the difference. It also has to be less than the sum, 15 plus 4. And that's how we get this. And then on letter D, the third side has to be greater than the difference, so 21 minus 11, and it has to be less than the sum, 11 plus 21. That's how we get this. Okay, this is based on the reading activity that you did, and it says the relationship between the sides of a triangle and the angles. The largest side of a triangle is going to be opposite the largest angle, and the smallest side of a triangle is going to be opposite the smallest angle. So if I have an angle of, let's say, the largest angle in this triangle would be, I'm going to say 87. If this is the largest angle, then its opposite side, or the side across from, is the largest side. And the smallest angle, or smallest side, is opposite the smallest angle. So let's say that this is the smallest angle, 30 degrees. Then opposite the smallest angle is the smallest side. So this would be the smallest side. Conversely, remember your converse, you take this statement and you flip it. The largest angle, if we were looking for the largest angle, it's going to be opposite the largest side. So let's say that I have three side lengths. I have 3, 4, and 5. And I'm looking for the largest angle. Well, the largest angle is formed by the largest side. So here's the largest side. Across from the largest side is the largest angle. So this is my largest angle. And my smallest angle was opposite my smallest side. So here's my smallest side. Across from that, this is my smallest angle. Okay, so we're going to use that theorem in order to find out which sides in this example 3 are going to be shorter to longest. So here's how you do this type of problem. You have to make sure you're very organized with it. Remember, we're starting from shortest to longest, so we need to find the smallest angle and figure out which side is the smallest side. So what I always do is I start from smallest to largest angle and I number my sides, smallest to largest. So 28 is the smallest. I throw my ping pong ball to find its opposite side, or the side across from it. Side AD is going to be my smallest side, so I put a 1 there because 1 is the smallest number in a series of 1, 2, 3. Then I find my second smallest, or the one in the middle. That's 62, and I go across from 62. That side across from 62, DE, is my middle side, so I put a 2 there. And then I find my largest angle. I go across from it, and that's AE. I put the largest number in the sequence 3. So listing the sides, I have them 1, 2, 3. So side AD is first, side DE is second, and side AE is last, smallest to largest. And yes, you do need the segment bar on top of all of them. And yes, you do need to know how to name a segment. Alright, you pause the video and try number 4. We're listing the sides in order from smallest to longest, or shortest to longest. Pause the video. Okay, you should have had IL first, then IJ second, then LJ third. If you got that right, go ahead and move on to the next example. If not, let's work this one together. Smallest angle, start with that, go opposite it. LI is my smallest side, so I put a 1 there. In the middle is 78, go opposite that. IJ is going to be my middle side, put a 2 there. And the largest is 81, go opposite that. LJ is my largest side. Okay, listing the angles in order from least to greatest, and sometimes they may say greatest to least, it doesn't matter, it's the same thing. You just have to go in the reverse order. We want to find the smallest side and its smallest angle. So I start, smallest side is 1.8. Across from this side is my smallest angle. So angle V is my smallest angle. Put a 1 there. In the middle is 2.7. Go across from it, and that means angle M is my middle angle. My largest side is 3.9. Go across from it, put a 3 at angle O because that's my largest angle. So listing the angles from least to greatest, you can do it 2 ways. We can do by 3 letters. We said number 1, MVO, angle MVO. Number 2 is VMO. And number 3 is MOV. If we want to name them with 1 letter only, we can call them angle V first with number 1, number 2 was angle M, and number 3 was angle O. Alright, go ahead and pause the video and try number 6 on your own. Try it both ways using 3 letters and using 1 letter only. Okay, you should have had angle KGH or HGK first, GHK or KHG, and GKH or HKG. Naming it with 3 letters. With 1 letter, it's G, H, and K. If you're ready to move on and go on to the practice, go ahead. If not, stick around. We start with the smallest side, which is 12. Across from it, we put a 1. Start with the middle side, 16. Across from it, we put a 2. And the largest side, 20. Across from it, we put a 3. So number 1 is angle G, which can be KGH. Number 2 is h, which could be GHK. And number 3, the longest measure, largest angle, angle K, we can call it GKH.